prison was calling out to me for a very long time. I was already in prison before I arrived in prison. And so this outward aesthetic of prison just reflected my inward condition. A lot like the story of the prodigal son who ends up living in the pigsty. His outward condition reflected his inward condition. And so I think that was my story. Probably, when I was in the academy program, I started thinking about like, man, what can I do? I enrolled in Moody Bible Institute, and it took me 6 years, but I finally got my bachelor's degree from there. Just looking at that as a stepping stone for me to, as soon as I got out, for me to advance, my career from there. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I just knew that was, a stepping stone to get there. When I was in prison, I was involved in a legal case where I was a witness, and I was working with the attorneys as I was going to testify. And I remember them asking, talking strategy, and I was asking them a bunch of questions. Why'd you do this versus that? And one of them just said, that's a really good question. You should consider going to law school. I walked out in November 2006, and I remember thinking, I do want to go to law school. I didn't know how I was going to get there or what I was going to do. I was living in Iowa at the moment, and I was on parole, and so I wanted to share that with my parole officer and just say, hey, man, this is great. I'm gonna need an out-of-state parole. I got to transfer to go to Virginia, and she just told me, you'll never go to law school. And so I was thinking, what do you mean? Like, this is such a great opportunity. Like, isn't this what we want from the system, to have people succeed and achieve these things and pursue them? I remember when I was in law school and I was trying to get an internship with the Attorney General's office, and I got approved, and I disclosed my past, and a week before I was supposed to start, they reneged on it. I remember that. I remember it's like, man, just let me in. Will you just let me in, please? Because I knew once I could get in, I could do the work. I could, do all these types of things, and but I was just trying to fight to get in. I graduated law school in 2011, May 2011. Sat for the bar in July 2011. Found out I passed in October 2011. My first hearing before the Character and Fitness Committee was in January 2012. And so this whole time I'm in limbo. Like, I don't have a job. My wife is the only one working. I'm just waiting. I'm thinking I'm going to get this result one way or the other. I'll know what I got to do. So I did go through the Character and Fitness Committee. They recommended that I get my license. So they submitted their recommendation to the Virginia Board of Bar Examiners, who then took until August of 2012 to tell me that they unanimously overturned their recommendation. And ultimately they said I had lived my life in a bubble, that prison was a bubble. You can't measure a person's character in prison. And I had been in law school after prison. And you can't measure a person's character in law school either, because that's a bubble. But there's nothing I could do. They told me I could reapply in 2 years. So I knew that I was going to have to prepare a case. So it was like right there, climbing that mountain, and you're like looking at that last thing to pull you up. And I was like, and then you just realize there's a whole other mountain behind that one. So I had the perception that when I walked out of prison, that I could do anything, be anything. If I work hard enough, if I hustle hard enough, I would outwork anybody. I graduated 5th in my class in law school, not because I'm the smartest person, but because I would outwork anybody. But it's not enough. And so that's where I was at that time. At the second time, going to the Virginia Supreme Court, I just felt stuck.
I just wanted him to give it one more shot, but it's so emotionally draining to go through it. I know he really didn't want to go through the hearings either, because I felt like all they saw and all they labeled him as is a bank robber. And they said that to him a lot. Well, why would we license a bank robber? And it just kept coming back to that. He wasn't a person anymore. He was just his crime. And I wish that they could see them for people and not just for their crimes. So I wanted Jesse to take the bar one more time and try one last time. Again, I was so convinced that it was going to work.
I took the bar and I found out in October that I passed, which, so after that, I sent my application in, and again, it's the same process. Again, they recommended licensure. And again, the Virginia Board of Bar Examiners overturned me. So by this time, it had been almost 10 years, a little over 9 years since I started on this journey. Well, we're going to appeal to the Virginia Supreme Court, and this is literally the last thing I'm going to do.
And so he calls and they said yes. And I knew exactly what he meant. I completely lost it. It literally took a decade to do. And we were finally done. And it was like, that's all that we needed. We just needed someone to say yes.
I can't describe the feeling. It was a relief. I'd spent so much time and energy fighting for this thing. It even impacted my health. I had a heart attack at 42 when I was testifying on these issues in front of the House subcommittee hearing in Washington, D.C. And so I hope that eventually, it doesn't cost as much. A lot of it has to do with, I just never forget, like when I was standing in prison, and I just remember distinctly feeling like I can be anything. Like that's what we want people coming out of prison to feel like. And it shouldn't take you a decade to take the first step to do that. And so I think my motivation was really just saying, listen, this has got to open the door for somebody. I mean, even now, even if I never were to practice law, at least you can say, like, someone cracked the door in Virginia, so maybe I'll take a shot.